Will LeBron be getting traded this year? Post down below what you guys think. So we had a couple of things that have popped up over the last few days as it pertains to this, as typically starts to happen when the Lakers start floundering. We start getting these stories. That's just kind of how things go, and that's not new to the LeBron sphere. It's always kind of been the case. But that being said, we have a fun one here, so we're going to talk about it. Anyways, if you guys are new to the Basketball Bulletin, guess what? About 80% of our viewers aren't subscribed. So make sure that you subscribe and stick around for more content as well like this. We cover the entire league, Trevor and I do, as we talk about trade rumors. We talk about, breaking news as it comes out and all that stuff. And you're definitely not going to want to miss it. So make sure you stick around. Also, hit that thumbs up. Let's get this video to a like goal of 200 likes. Thank you so much for your support. All right, so let's start off with the report here from Brian Windhorst over on Hoopsite. According to the veteran NBA reporter Brian Windhorst, there are teams around the league that are wondering if James may want to consider getting traded before the February 6, 2025 deadline. And he quotes, "I would be lying if I said there haven't been some conversations in the league about would LeBron at some point this year revisit that," said Windhorst, because you remember last year at the deadline, the Warriors had called. Brian outlined how such a trade would be nearly impossible for both Golden State and LA, but I just want to say a couple of things. First off, any trade that the Warriors make is going to be complicated. They have only $500,000 that they're allowed to spend more in this season. It's second apron stuff. I know it's boring. Any trade that they make, they really can't take on any more money. Guess what? The Lakers are not allowed to take on any more money because they're in the first apron. So if possible, it's only possible if LeBron wanted it. Also, LeBron has a no trade clause. That's another thing, too. Also, the Lakers don't own their first round pick this year. It goes unprotected to the Atlanta Hawks. And twice in the last 10 months, LeBron has had an opportunity to leave if he wanted to, citing that he could have left in free agency or when this all popped up last year. I don't know if you remember, but there was a story January-ish, February-ish last year where it was like, or I guess this year, where it was like, okay, LeBron, there's some rumors about you going to Golden State. Jeannie asked LeBron. They asked LeBron if he wanted to get traded. He said no. Okay, is what it is. And they kind of moved on. But, that was interesting back then. And it's another thing that's kind of resurfaced. And he's saying here, basically, he's heard that maybe people are open to that idea or wondering if LeBron is open to the idea of getting traded again. So a couple tricky things to note. Firstly, it's really hard to trade LeBron just in general because of the economical effect of having a megastar like LeBron on your team, regardless of what his play is. He's freaking LeBron, right? So getting him off of your team has a huge ripple effect to the entire city. It really does. I mean, there were stories about, and this is Cleveland to LA, so it doesn't compare. I mean, I don't mean that to disparage Cleveland, but it doesn't really compare, in terms of just what it is. But there were stories about how him leaving back then the first time took, I think, $500,000 out of the economy, something like that, due to jobs, all this stuff. So there's a lot of things people don't really consider. Nextly, LeBron makes a lot of money, so it's kind of hard to match the salary in a trade for LeBron because he has a no trade clause. You're not going to be able to ship him off to Washington or something like that. And if he's saying, okay, trade me, he's going to give you a list of destinations, and it's going to be on the front office at that point to decide how to put that together, how to make that work. And unfortunately, most of the good teams are dealing with apron stuff to where they either can't aggregate salaries, they can't take back more than they're sending out. Like it's a mess when you start. I am terrible. I am absolutely terrible at putting together trades. I always have been. But I tried to put together a trade for LeBron. I'm sorry, I'm still sick. I tried to put together several trades for LeBron, and I just kept running into an issue where it's like hard caps, can't do anything, first apron, second apron, and then when you finally find a spot, it's like, would he want to go there? And then on top of that, what are the Lakers going to try to do? Are they going to try to continue build around AD and just kind of stay competitive? Would they ship AD out at the same time? I mean, the idea has been that when LeBron's done, they're going to build around AD, but maybe they have a change of heart at some point. I'm not really sure. And so if you have to try to make it favorable for both sides, right? It's somewhere LeBron wants to go because he's also going to say, let's say hypothetically, they trade him to Cleveland. He's going to tell them, yeah, I'd love to go back to Cleveland. That'd be awesome. But I want to play with XYZ. And so most of the guys have to stay there if he wants to play with them because he's not going to approve a trade otherwise. You see what I'm saying? But then the Lakers, it's like, well, should they do this in the first place? Are they just trading him for the sake of trading him? Do they want to get back what he's worth? Do they want to get draft compensation? Like, how do you make this fair for both sides? There's a lot of different moving pieces to this. It's really interesting. It really is. So, all in all, I don't think he'll get traded. I haven't talked about, the fact that his family's out there. Bronny's in LA. Are they going to trade for LeBron and LeBron Jr. at the same time? I don't know. I don't think he will want to leave. If he wanted to leave, he would have left when he's had several opportunities over the last handful of years. In the last 10 months, he had 2. He chose not to do so. I think that he does enjoy being in LA. I do think he wants to end his career in Los Angeles as well. But once again, if you guys have any interesting trades, post them down below, because like I said, I am terrible. I wanted to go into this video. Trevor gave me the idea. He was like, yo, go into the video with 3 hypothetical trades, see how they work, all this stuff. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, let me grab the Lakers. Let's see if we can put LeBron on another team like the Knicks, or, well, I guess maybe it would have been last year. Like last year would have been interesting with some of these situations. It would have been easier certain spots. Like I think you could have done Philadelphia by largely swapping him for Tobias Harris, things like that. But now you don't really have some of the same options. Try to put LeBron on Golden State, of course, because that's one big one. Put him on a team that's going to be trying to contend. And if you're a team that is looking to target LeBron, you're looking to try to win now. Like, you want to try to get LeBron to win immediately, not next year. Anything. You want to win this year. You're going for it this year. So that's kind of why. And that's why I think LeBron would also be on board with it. It could wind up being a situation where he would want to, or he would have the opportunity to win a ring without having to deal with all the LA up and down play that they have. But again, like I said, I think part of the reason why he wouldn't do it, you can go either way. I think part of the reason he wouldn't do it is because largely the family piece. I think he does want to stay in LA. Also, an underrated thing about LeBron, he's actually always honored all of his contracts. I know player movement. I know that he gets killed for, all the stuff that he's done, bouncing around and stuff like that. But he's won everywhere he's been, and he's always honored every single contract. He's never been traded. I don't know if he's literally never asked for a trade, but I don't remember of any situation where he's ever asked for a trade and it been made public. At least I'll say he's always honored his contract. So this would be no different than that if you were to stay in LA. But all in all, this situation is kind of crazy. And another thing too, on the Lakers side, I want to pull up some stuff here. On the Lakers side, a thing that's kind of interesting is that the Lakers have been largely really good without LeBron this year, which is kind of weird. I did a separate video recently where I dug into all of LeBron's individual metrics, and it's kind of crazy because I expect him to rebound, and I don't think that what he's shown this far is what he is. And I think that some of his metrics have tanked because he was on that slide for, a handful of games there. But when you really actually dig into LeBron's individual metrics, through VORP, box plus minus, all the advanced stuff says this is one of LeBron's worst seasons. And honestly, if you remove his rookie year, some of that stuff just has it flat out as being his worst season of his career. Now, some of that's just he's 40 years old in a couple of days, so that's a built-in excuse. Like, it is what it is. Like, he is that old. But when you look at the lineup data for the Lakers, and you could, again, I'm not going to spend an hour digging into this, but you truly could. But when you look at the lineup data with and without LeBron, and this is unfortunate because we saw them, it was the Blazers yesterday, but they did get a win without LeBron as well yesterday. But when you filter LeBron out of the lineups, they're mostly in the positive. And they're actually really good on defense. That's another thing, too, is that for a while there, LeBron was talked about as, he doesn't play any defense for things like that. Some people don't think he's played defense since like 2018 or 16 or whatever. He's been up and down with that, but he's always been able to, still at this point, able to give it to you if he needs to for, bursts and a couple possessions here and there. But this year's not been a great defensive year on the whole for him. And it's kind of one of the things we talked about recently, how like reputations can kind of stick. Right? Because he got that reputation a handful of years ago, and it's not exactly been true. There was a year early in the year where he was one of the 2020, 2021 was the year he was early in the year, like 30 games in. He was one of the main DPOY candidates, which is hilarious. So anyway, largely all positives. I mean, like literally any lineup without LeBron at this point is a positive for the most part. There's one right here that's kind of tanking, but that's it. But there's not a lot of possessions total. But the main thing that you see here is they're in the 90th percentile differential, 90th in points per possession. They're not even scoring as much with LeBron. It's kind of crazy. Like, it's not even a defense thing. It's just they're not flat out they're not performing great without LeBron. So let's put or they're not performing great with LeBron, excuse me. Let's put LeBron back on the court. And the main lineup that they use him with, D'Lo, or this is the starting group. They should, it's kind of weird because this is still their best on sample lineup, the starting group of Rui, AR, and D'Lo, which has its faults, but it's still their best lineup. It's weird, right? It's weird. And it was why they ended last year on such the tear that they did, and they were amazing at the end of last year. But this is LeBron's basically his best lineup. Then there's a bunch of negative lineups. These are all negative lineups. And that's with and without AD. But really what starts to happen is if you really want to dig into the Lakers' advanced metrics, there's a really, really clear dichotomy here where it's like when D'Lo is on, the Lakers are extremely good. And that may or may not match your individual eye test. But when D'Lo is on, the Lakers are extremely good. And when he's not, regardless of anybody else, they're not as good. D'Lo is so far and away this team's leader with the positive metrics like plus minus. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, that's largely what it is. And I'm not going to, like I said, we're not going to spend forever on this. But like I said, LeBron not having the best season. And really this year is like the first year in quite a while where he's not really impacting winning to the same degree. I want to look up last year here as well, because I mean, if anything would or should come close, it would be last year or maybe some of those tanking, like semi-tanking Russ years where they were just not very good. But even last year, their main lineup with LeBron out there, 6. There's a couple really like close to negative, like basically neutral lineups. Some really good lineups here as well. So a little bit up and down, a little bit up and down. A lot of green, or excuse me, a lot of blue on here. Blue is not great. A lot of orange, though. Points per possession with this group is insane. Hello, 99th percentile. Spencer Dinwiddie. Unfortunately, they didn't retain him. But let's see LeBron off the court and see how things look for last year as well. And this will be our last point. I was curious about this just in general for lineups last year for the Lakers. So they were on average worse with LeBron off the court by nearly 4 points. And that's just not the case this year, which is one of the main things. And also, I think that the Lakers have had very up and down play. See, like right now, on average, with LeBron off, they're killing it. It is what it is. They're killing it. So I think that if you were to try, and if you're the Lakers in this case, and you were to flip LeBron, I think that it could be a win-win, because I think that LeBron going to another team, and that team saying, hey, because it'd be a contender at that point, and they're probably not giving up much because, like I said, he's gonna have carte blanche on that. He's gonna say, I don't want you guys to trade so and so. I only want to go to X, Y, or Z team. Like he's gonna have full autonomy on whatever he wanted to do. And so that's why I think it's kind of tricky, because, like I said, I think the Lakers would trade him if he asked for it because he's LeBron. But I'm not sure about the Lakers' return in this. I think the Lakers may be good if they get a couple pieces that are good and like a draft pick or two, which is not a lot for a LeBron James. But I think that might wind up being what's happening. But I think they could remain competitive and build around AD, get some maybe like a 3-and-D guy to plug in there, another ball handler to help, because LeBron would be out, and then you'd kind of lean a lot on JJ's system. But the reality is that team is still going to have a similar ceiling, first round exit, maybe second round exit. They're not going to do much. And Laker fans are not into that idea. They don't want that. They don't really care for that. A lot of Laker fans are just flat out calling for a full on rebuild, get rid of both of them, and just kind of call it. So I think that if you were to do that, you could be competitive for a while, but maybe the next best case is to just flip this entire team, flip AD out, say, AD, where do you want to go? LeBron, where do you want to go? Try to get some draft picks back, especially for AD, because he doesn't have the same cachet or control over his contract situation as LeBron does. But yeah, I think that may be the best bet. But regardless, it's not to disparage AD or D'Lo or LeBron or anybody like that. I do think this team they've had some weird stretches this year. And I think they can perform better. I think LeBron himself, he's been very up and down. Main thing with him is his scoring hasn't bounced back. It's kind of weird. I thought he'd be closer to 25, not 22, which is weird. But I do think they'll be better, and LeBron will be better as the season goes on. But ultimately, like I said, for the third time, if you have any interesting trades that you think work, they got to work. Post them down below in the comments. And if you guys didn't see it earlier today, Trevor covered some awesome news in the NBA. You can click that video on your screen before you go right now, and we will see you guys over there.